that our chat room is located at ithemes.com/chat. You are here for the Mastering Local SEO course free webinar that we are hosting here with Rebecca Gill. Rebecca is a very knowledgeable person within the SEO world, and we are so pleased to have her back for another session. If you've missed many of her other ones over the past month, you can follow along with the iThemes blog and learn more about some of those SEO courses that she's been teaching over the past probably 7 or 8 months, I believe. So we're pleased to have her back. Again, the chat room is ithemes.com/chat. The reason why I'm really pushing that chat room is on the sidebar is an information about another course Rebecca teaches, and you can get a special discount if you want to really push your SEO skills to that next level. So without further ado, I know there are tons of people who are really excited about learning more about local SEO. I want to thank you, Rebecca, and turn it over to you.
Thanks so much. Welcome everyone, and I'm so happy to have you here. I would like to say that we've been doing these webinars together since I think it's November or December when we started SEO Week. And while that was really Corey Miller's idea originally, and I bought into the idea, and then we took it a little bit further and we started doing monthly webinars on SEO for the iThemes community. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed having you all here. I've enjoyed the questions that you present during the webinar, and you know that we get to go over after it's done. I appreciate all the comments I get on Twitter and Facebook after the webinar, and I just want to say thank you. It was stated earlier, this has been a very high subscription rate for this particular webinar, which actually surprises me personally. I forget how many people need to know about local SEO and how it can be very confusing. So I'm glad that I got the opportunity to talk about it today. And with that, we'll get started. Don't forget to please add some questions that you have into the chat so we can go over them at the end of my presentation. I'll make sure that I keep 10 to 15 minutes open so we can discuss whatever you'd like to at the end. And if there's not questions on local SEO, we can discuss anything else. We will not be discussing Pokemon Go because I'm a little over it right now with my 10-year-old. So we'll move on from that. Okay, so let's get going. So first thing I want to say is that local SEO is not voodoo. And I say that because when I originally started looking at SEO, I was really intimidated by it. Just, you know, very similar to what I was with SEO in general, but that local add-on made it feel really intimidating. Like there was all of this information I didn't know, and I really needed to figure it out and dig in and you know, read a bunch of things and research you know, different experts in the internet and what they thought. And what I quickly discovered was it's not voodoo. There's just some nuances that you need to understand about local SEO and how that changes and differs from a national or an international SEO level. So we're going to go through those today, and keep in mind as we do, this is going to piggyback on all of the things that we've been going through over the last 6 to 7 months with the basics of SEO. So while I'm not going into depth on keyword research and site mapping and on-page optimization and off-page optimization, you know, we'll touch a little bit about those and how those affect local SEO, but keep in mind that everything that we're going through today is applied on top of those. So you still have to have that really good understanding of SEO at a national level, and now we're just going to do the nuances and the little tweaks for it to hit the local level. If you can do SEO at a national level, you can absolutely do SEO at a local level. It's because it's a lot easier. And the reason it's a lot easier is because your competition is much less. So it makes the efforts that you have to go through just a lot less than what you'd have to if you're going to compete at an international or a national level. So let's just start with the basics. What is local SEO? Local SEO refers to the practice of optimizing a website for search based on a specific geographical area. In the U.S., that's a state or a city. Outside of the U.S., it could be a territory or whatever else geographical verbiage is applied, but it's a smaller segment than international or at a country level. And really, that's the basics of it. It has a lot of similarities to national SEO, but there are some tweaks and some differences that you need to be aware of, and they're not that hard. It's just a matter of making sure that you're not losing sight of them when you are working on your own website or building a website for a client. And again, if you can master national and international SEO, you can absolutely master the SEO at the local level. So the first thing I want to go through is the different types of search that will apply at the local level. And these shift over time. So when I say they shift over time, when I first started doing SEO for clients and building websites 7 years ago when I launched Web Savvy, the way Google presented results for divorce attorney was different than what it is today. So, and that's my first reference. So the first type of search is keyword only. That means somebody is inputting into the Google search box the phrase divorce attorney, right? And when I originally started with SEO and web development, Google would come back and give us results at a national level in the US, because that's where I'm based. I would see divorce attorneys over in California showing up for me, even though there's no way I could actually hire them because they don't even have the bar in Michigan. So that has changed over the years, and so now when you input a keyword for or search for a divorce attorney, you actually get local results specific to me in my geographical area that could actually represent me because they have passed the Michigan bar, and they're allowed to practice law in the state of Michigan. Very different. And so what that does is that's going to shift the way that you're looking at SEO. Google will give a combination of those results as well. So in some instances, you'll see just local results for a phrase, even if you don't put any location. Some instances, you're going to see national, and some that you're going to see a mix of both local and national. This does make the keyword planning and mapping process a little bit different. It puts a little bit more complexity to it, and it's something that you just need to be aware of. So as you're going through your keyword planning and your site mapping process, you actually really should go in and start looking for these and seeing what Google presents back, because the reason for that is you're going to have a much better opportunity to win on local if you're serving a local area than you are at the national level in those national results. And so we pay attention to that, right? So if I have a client who is a divorce attorney, we're going to look at those types of phrases that when we put in just the generic phrase, Google returns local results automatically for us, because it's easier for us to win. It's easier for us to compete in those. So that's one instance. Web designer is the same thing. You'll see when you put in web designer or website designer, Google's going to bring you back local results with a map and then some local results underneath that, and then it'll mix in some national. But so that's one instance. So the next instance is when someone combines a phrase along with a geographical area. So for me, I'm in Michigan. The largest metropolitan area near me is Detroit, and so my instances or my examples would be Michigan vacation spots or Detroit plumber. So I'm combining both the generic keyword phrase with a location. And I will tell you what I've seen over the last decade is the usage of that by actual people searching within Google has shifted as well. Because Google's getting smarter and smarter and it's starting to present more and more results that it knows are local at the local level without having to add on that geographical reference, the searches for them are becoming less and less. So you don't necessarily always have to put in Detroit, you don't have to put in Michigan, but you do need to be cognizant of which versions are presenting which results in Google. So it's just something to be aware of. Now the third instance is a mobile-based search. So mobile can give similar or very different results than a desktop search. And again, if you're working with clients or for your own website at a local level, you should look for searches on your mobile device just to see what comes back and how they shift. Because again, you want to take that all into consideration when you're doing your site mapping and you're planning for what keywords that you really want to go after. This may seem right now confusing. It might seem overwhelming, but it's not. Once you just start using a few examples for whatever type of project you're working on and you start to put them in the search box and you start to look at the results coming back from Google, it'll all start to tie together and it'll start to make sense. And you'll look back at the slide and go, okay, I get this. I see what she means. Now I see which ones might be more easier for me to obtain. page one ranking than, versus another phrase. Okay, so another consideration is dialect. And I had to search for some instances of this because I didn't get some good examples. So the picture here is actually from the family vacation that I just had in July, and this is at my cottage up in northern Michigan, and we had a tournament for cornhole or bago. And if you're outside the U.S., you may not play this, and it might seem really foreign to you, but basically what it is you throw a beanbag at one of those wooden slants, the boards down there, and you try to get it in the hole, and you get points for going in the hole versus not going in the hole. Why this is relevant to today's discussion is when we had this family party at my cottage for 45 people, some were native Michigans, some were from the southern part of the U.S. If you were from the southern part of the U.S., like Erin is on the left, you would use the term cornhole. If you were a native Michigan person or grew up in the northern part of the U.S., you are more inclined to use the phrase bago. And it caused a lot of confusion and just funny dialogue when I sat and listened to my family on who used what, and they would correct each other, right? My daughter would say, okay, everybody get together, let's use bago. It's time for the bago tournament. And somebody would correct her and say, you mean cornhole, because that's what they were brought up with, and that's the terminology they were used. Why this applies to today's discussion and with SEO, you have to pay attention to those nuances, particularly if you're a WordPress developer and you're working with clients at a national level where your client may be on the other side of the country, but they service a local market. You need to know what type of phrase is used in their region so that you optimize for that phrase. And I gave you some examples, and it's both for local, but I also think about the gender, or not the gender, the age gap. So my grandmother, growing up with her, she always used the phrase Davenport. I've never heard anyone say it since. We always use couch or sofa, but if you were to use that and you were trying to target an older generation, they may have different terminology than what your local or what you would expect for yourself. So these are things to take into account. I just gave you some quick examples that I brainstormed to think of differences, and I was looking some up on the internet, but it will absolutely make a difference in SEO, and it will make a difference when you are looking at your keyword volumes. And here is an example. My sisters, when they left college, they both went from Michigan down to Georgia. When they went from Michigan to Georgia, they stopped using the phrase pop, which is something that Michigan uses for soda, which drives me insane, but it's still what they do. And they replaced it with Coke because that's where Coca-Cola's headquarters is in Georgia. That will also make a shift. So, and what I'm showing you in the slide is not only can you see those shifts in volumes, because if you look at a national level in the U.S., pop certainly ranks the highest with activity. It's over 1 million per month. And look at Little Lonely Coke, it's only at 200,000. But when you segregate this down to just the Atlanta area, where my sisters were at, Coke all of a sudden starts and it surpasses soda. It's not all the way to pop, but you see that there's a huge difference in the percentage breakout on those phrases or those keywords based on the region of the U.S. And the point I want you to take away with the slide, and I want you to remember when you're doing this research for yourself, is this little guy over here on the right. You can, in Google AdWords, actually filter down search volumes based on regions. And I absolutely do this with clients. And here's a really good quick example. So I had a client that was just an SEO project, and they sold at a national level, but they targeted cities and states all across the U.S. What we found when looking at their keywords was the West Coast versus the East Coast had a shift in keyword selection. They had one major keyword that they were focusing on, and it worked great for the East Coast, but when you looked at the West Coast, particularly California and Oregon and Washington, they used a different phrase. And if we were to stick with the East Coast phrase, we would have lost search volume because that's not what that local area searched for. They had a different phrase in mind. So what we did was we had to actually map out the website and map out the verbiage they used for the East Coast versus the West Coast. And it made a big difference with the search volumes and where they were ranking. Because it's not just about ranking, it's about ranking for that specific area and what those clients are going to potentially look for. So make sure that if you are searching or you're planning an SEO campaign at the local level and you might have these variances, look at your targeting and narrow that down, because you might see in some instances surprises. You're not going to always see surprises, and there's a lot of phrases that are going to be the same throughout, like for example the US, but there are going to be instances, and the longer I do SEO and the more I work with a diverse set of clients, the more I see this. So keep that in mind as you move forward. Okay, so next that we want to talk through is there's really 10 local ranking factors that you need to be aware of. Again, these are going to overlap in some cases what you do for national SEO, and in some cases they're going to be unique. So number one is authority. Authority means how is your business viewed on the internet? How do other people look at your business? And Google uses and Bing uses a lot of different factors to be able to understand this, but it still makes a difference at the local level. You know, do I have a good reputation? Are there a lot of references to me? Things like that, you know, just overall that building of that authority. The next one is keyword focus. Very similar to national, it is still important. It still matters that you have good research for your keywords. They map to specific pieces of content on your website, and they map to your target audience. The third one is where we start to hit into local and where it's really a difference. So this is what's called the NAP data. NAP data sounds funny because you might think you can put it in your sleep, but that's not really what it is. It's name, address, and phone number, and it is the heart of SEO. If you take nothing away from today, I want you to take away NAP data. I want you to understand that the contact information you have on your website, the placement of it, is critical at a local level. When you're looking at existing local websites and you're looking, and these could be 10-year-old websites, because it's usually a lot of times it's a smaller company, it's a small business. It could have been a cousin who created it, or a nephew, or they could have whipped it up with Wix, or you know, some free application. A lot of times the data that you have shown for the phone number and the address and that information, it's embedded in an image. The problem with that is the search engines can't read it. And if the search engines can't read it, they can't apply that local information to the website and get an understanding of where that website fits at a geographical level. So having your city, your state, your phone number in the website and in text is extremely important. And if you see someone doing that and you're looking at their website to do a redesign for it, if you're a WordPress developer, tell them that that's an issue and it needs to be resolved. You want it for both that, and you want it so people can easily click on the phone number from a mobile device and call right from their phone. It's ease of use. It encourages people to reach out. I particularly like, if I have a local type of website, to have that information in the header or the footer. I don't like to have the address in the header, but I like to have the phone number. If the local company wants phone calls, I like to have that in the header. And I like to have the full address, if there's only one location, in the footer so it appears site-wide. Doesn't need to be big and bold and obnoxious, it just needs to be there. And because what that's doing is it is allowing the search engines to associate that local city and state reference with the area code for the phone number to individual pieces of content. That helps them figure out the website and where you fit. Another area where I see a lot of mistakes is people will only want an 800 number. 800 numbers are great, however, it doesn't allow the search engines to associate an area code with the geographic region that the area code represents. So it is, if you're going to have an 800 number, it's best to have both. Have your website or your client's website have both the 800 number and the local version of that, so search engines can see that area code. And I'm sorry for international users, I don't know the phone makeup and the configuration to apply what local US area code would be overseas, but I hope that it's making sense and the same would apply. One thing that I really should have bolded is this last bullet on this page. If you are dealing with a larger organization or a larger website that has multiple locations, it's really important that each location have a page. And an example of this is we are currently building a very large project, and it's for a national US company that has local outlets throughout the US. And there are about 150 locations. In this new website, each location will have its own page. It's going to show contact information, a map, their service area, a metro area, a description of what they do, images. If a video is applicable, it'll show the video. All of these unique things to help the search engines and the users who come to the website get to this page and say, okay, I see this is in my area. I see my local phone number, which reinforces to the user and the search engines that that's local. I see the address, I see the area that they cover, I see that it's my metro area, and I know the services and the products they represent. It's good for the user because it validates that they're in the right place. It's great for the search engines because you are giving them oodles of information to be able to digest, to use in results within search. So keep that in mind. Again, multiple locations, multiple individual pages. Make as much unique on those pages as possible. And I know if you're a developer and you're working with small businesses, or if you're a small business owner listening to this, you have limited resources and you have a limited time to write content. But think about what could be unique. It could be projects of your service, like if, say you're in construction, it could be projects you've done in that local area, pictures of it, descriptions of it. It could be testimonials from those local residents. It could be the local team, baseball team that you sponsor in that area. Anything you can do to make that sure that that page has unique content that is specific to the area. Just like National SEO, inbound links, I have number 4, just as important. It's both the quantity and the quality of inbound links. And for you with local SEO, it's important to also have some local inbound links. I sponsor the local baseball teams, not just because my son's on the team and he thinks it's really cool to wear the Web Savvy logo, but I do it because it also helps bring in links to the website from local area websites. Helps with my ranking for SEO, helps with exposure. Number 5 is also a really big one. It's Google My Business and Google+. Businesses are warming up to this, and they're getting more apt to have a Google profile. The software and the way Google presents it is challenging. I was on it this morning, and every time I go to it, I find it very frustrating to use from a usability standpoint, but you have to fight through it. You need to make sure that, if you want to show up in Google at a local level, you have a My Business or a Google Plus profile, and it is properly filled out. And some of the key things that you need to make sure is the category and the description. That category needs to closely represent what you do, and I know they have limited categories, but find the closest one you can. For example, my sister-in-law just opened a studio for, it's a athletic studio, a fitness studio, and she teaches Pilates and what's called bar, which is a type of advanced type of yoga. The closest category we could get in Google was Pilates, and she didn't want it. She wanted bar because that's really what she is and what she specializes in, but it's not an option. So we have to take the next closest one, which is Pilates. And guess what? She shows up more for Pilates than anything because that's her Google category. And you can't fight Google. You just have to work with it, and you do have to fight through the user interface because it's challenging, but it's worth the effort. Make sure that your business descriptions include any of your top keywords. So for her example, it's Pilates, it's bar method, it would be a yoga alternative, it would be a description where she's in downtown Milford. Those are the things that you want to make sure that you have in your business description, so again they can help you show up in Google Maps and in the local search results. So number 6 is external directory references. Years ago we used to actually offer this as a service. These external directories would be Yelp or Angie's List or Foursquare or Merchant Circle or TripAdvisor, whatever the industry is. There's a lot of different versions. We used to actually go through and populate this for people and for companies and then update them, and it was really time consuming and labor intensive because it was a manual process, and you had to, as a developer and an agency, you had to use the client's email and wait for confirmations and things like that. Thankfully, there are some services that will help you do this and automate this process. It is worth the money to do this. You need to absolutely positively make sure that for your clients or yourself have these local references and you show up in these directories. Are you going to get a ton of traffic through them? Probably not. But what they do is they give references to the search engines of your name, address, and phone number and description assigned to your website URL, which helps them, again, figure out who you are, what you do, and what area you service. If you are in a profession like law, or you're a physician and you service the medical industry, there's a lot of industry-specific websites that are directories that have profiles for lawyers and doctors. Take the time to get on them, because that will also allow you to have that reference of the name, address, and phone number and your description. Really, really important, and I know that they're challenging to do too, but it's worth the effort to have that done and to make sure that those references are out there. Okay, number 7, same as national, it's user behavior and mobile usage. What are people doing when they're interacting with the website? Do they click through? Are they using the click to call function? Are they checking in? These are all references and data points that the search engines utilize to decide who they should rank and who they should present highest on page 1. Search personalization has driven me crazy since it came out years ago. It's still a factor. It's something to take into an account. I wouldn't stress too much on that because it's not something that you can control, but be cognizant of it. Number 9, you can control. Number 9 is reviews. Those are user reviews, unlike Google or Facebook, or even if you're a medical or a lawyer, a doctor or a lawyer, on those industry-specific sites, they have reviews. Encourage people to leave reviews. The more reviews you have that are positive, the more the search engines can gather the fact that you are reputable, you're local, people are happy with you, and the more that they're going to want to send users your way. They make a difference. Number 10 is generic social media signals. So I mentioned Google Plus again, but Facebook likes, Twitter, those kind of things are all going to help with that activity and with your ranking. I know you may never get activity or leads or sales or new clients through Facebook, but if you're a local business, you need to have a Facebook page and you need to update it. Okay, showing up in Google Maps, we all want to do that. If a Google map applies to a search, and Google Map is that little box that shows up at the top of Google for certain searches, and shows the map, and there's like 3 references underneath it, and then you can have an option to have more. If this applies to your keywords that are relevant for you, you have to get up on Google Maps. Otherwise, you're not going to get that traffic that you need. There's 3 things that really make an impact on whether or not you're going to show up in that little pack of listings. The first is relevance. Are you relevant to what somebody's looking for? My example before for website designer. Website designer is a search for a specific person or company. It's a thing that they're looking for. That produces local results. Whereas website design, I think, is more national because it's a service as opposed to a person or a company. The more relevant you are to that result, the more you're going to show up in search. Keep this in mind if you're working with clients and they want to rank on a phrase that's not really relevant to them. Discourage them for that and focus them on something that's highly relevant to their business and focus on that. Distance. That's just what it sounds like. How far is your organization, your business, your geographical coverage from the place of the search? Google knows GPS. It knows information on IP. It's going to base it on that. And yes, I know that if you're on broadband, your IP may be totally different than what you're actually at, and I can't control that, but it is a factor. It is something to be knowledgeable about. And then prominence is the final one. This ties back to the other ones. Are you relevant? Do you have authority? Do you have links? Are you on directories? That kind of thing. It's gonna be taken into account in whether you're going to show up in Google Maps. Doing local SEO means you have to have a cheat sheet. You have to have a to-do list. This cheat sheet you would have seen with me if you were on other webinars. I present it because it's just as important with this as it is with building your external links coming into the website. Same type of thing. Website name, have all this information ready when you're going to go and fill out directories, or you're going to give information over to the local baseball team that you're sponsoring and they want to do a profile for you. Have it ready. Have a cheat sheet so that you can just pull from. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is they're going to ask you for a business description. You're going to whip something up and it's not going to include any of your keywords, which will be a disservice to you. Have all this information ready to go so that you can get that over and you can make sure that consistent listings are being provided. Consistency is extremely important with local SEO. The search engines will say it, the SEO experts will say it, and anytime you're sitting through any type of presentation on local SEO, they will talk about consistency of both that NAP, the NAP information, as well as these other factors like descriptions and the name, what the name is. Make sure you have the cheat sheet, make sure that you're utilizing it. Your to-do list. Okay, so I always like to have homework for people, and if you've taken my course, you know that you have homework. If you've ever read Carrie Dills' blog, she talks about the homework and it taking her way longer than she thought it was going to for the SEO course. That's okay. It's a good thing, and just with that, you have homework here too. So as you walk out of this webinar, whether you are doing this for your own website or you're doing that for a client, I want you to kind of look at this to-do list, and I want you to go through it and see what you have done and what you haven't done and what you need to do moving forward. Start with number one. Let's look at that NAP information. Is it correct on your website? Does it match your physical listing? Is your phone number available across the website? Does it offer something more than that 800 number? Check that and fix that. Most likely, if you're using WordPress and you've got a good theme that offers a widget area for your header, it's easy to update. Or your footer, if your footer has widgets, again, that's easy to update. If you don't have a Google My Business or a Google Plus page for your company, sign up today. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till next week. Do it today, because it's extremely important, because that will help you get into Google Maps. Make sure that you're using that cheat sheet on this prior slide so that your information that you're presenting to Google is correct and it's consistent. Take the time to find the right category within your Google listing to make sure that it best represents your company and what you do, so that you have the most opportunities to show up in search. Use other social media where applicable. If you don't have a Facebook page, start one. It's not a friend account where people have to friend you. It's a page where people like you. I don't care if you only have 30 likes. I want you to have that reference out there, and then I want you to build on it. You can build on it by having, if you have a brick and mortar store, having some type of reference inside your facility, inside your location, that tells people you're on Facebook. Ask for a review. If you've had someone give you positive feedback in person or an email, take the next step and just ask them. Say, I'd love to have that review on Facebook. We always are looking for nice reviews. We'd love to have your thoughts shared with potential customers of ours, so that they have a better feel for what we offer. I know that's kind of hard, and it can be emotionally challenging, but it's worth it. And once you start doing it a couple of times, you'll realize it's a lot easier to do, and it's a lot easier to get those reviews than you ever thought. Use consistent format in your address and other information. I'm preaching this. I'm coming back to it. I'm reiterating it, because, again, consistency is extremely important for local SEO. Use keywords within your business descriptions. You had that cheat sheet beforehand. I want you to go back and take another look as you're going through your to-do list, and make sure that your description, a lot of times you have a short description and a long description. I want both of them to hit your must-have keywords, phrases. Weave them into the description. It's not just a list. Weave them in nicely so it matches up to what you do and what you offer, and it tells the search engines about that, as well as potential users who are seeing those listings. Check your local listings to see if they're accurate. I'm going to go about this. I'll talk more about this in just the next slide. And then add your business to local directories. Same thing. Let's go to the next slide and we'll talk about that. You can get help with setting up those local directories. I said earlier that this was something that we manually did, and we actually charged people for it, and it was really time consuming. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time doing it. Go to one of these businesses, look at their offering. There's different versions of it, right? You can have a business that just does local listings, that will just check them for you. You'll have a list or a business that will set them up for you or fix them for you. You're going to have companies that do more than that, and it's part of a package. Again, lots of companies. Yext is a good one. I know that they will specifically find your listings, fix your listings, and then keep them updated ongoing. I think it's a monthly fee that you're going to have to pay. But if you are using any type of listings in yellow pages and local ads, the amount you're going to pay for Yext, which is probably like $20 a month, is a drop in the bucket. It's a small percentage of what you would be spending otherwise, and it does really make a difference with local search. GoDaddy actually has a new service so that they can help listings, and I think you can do it. You can use this even if you don't have a GoDaddy website. So I wouldn't recommend their SEO services per se, but I would definitely consider them if you have a GoDaddy account. Check out their local service that they offer because they can help with this as well. Localbox is actually a Web Savvy customer. We built their website, and they do a lot of different things with local services and search. They do both listings, but then they have a host of other packages, and I'm not sure if their directories will sell individually or if it's part of the package, but definitely one of the companies to look at. And then Moz is one that we're all familiar with, or most people here should be familiar with. They have a service where you can go in and check your local listings to see if they're accurate. I'm pretty sure that that is a free service, so you can see them and just kind of see what the feedback is to know whether or not that you need to update those or not. Good information that you can take and either manually fix if you want to, or you can pay a service to have those fixed for you. Again, super, super important, which is why I dedicated a slide to it, and I really want to make sure that you all know that it's important for you to do. Okay, some common mistakes that I see. There's more than this, but these are like the top ones. And if you're a website owner, look at these and then take these back and compare them to your own website and your own marketing activities. If you're a WordPress developer and you're offering design or potentially local SEO services to your clients, make sure that you run down these too with both existing clients as well as prospects that you may encounter. So the first one is the 800 number. I'm not saying 800 numbers are bad again. What I am saying is that the local number needs to be present in addition to the 800 number. Phone numbers as images and not text. You can't click to dial a phone number when it's in an image, and the search engines cannot read that either. So please make sure that that's not the case. One other thing, if someone is headbutting you on changing that, try to look at that on a mobile device. It's not going to scale like it should, and I've had this fight with people before from a design standpoint. They wanted to have really, in fact, I actually have an SEO client that I had this conversation with in the last month. They have an external design and developer that they're using, and I'm just working on SEO with them, and they brought me samples of the new design, and the design, the way that the designer had it presented, had the contact information and important information in an image, and it was going to have to get coded as an image, as a complete image, because there were so many different text presentations going vertical and horizontal and slanted that it was going to be really, really difficult to code that out. And I told my client, I said, from an SEO standpoint, that's bad because the search engines can't read what's within that image. You can put alt text to it and you can just and have a file name, but still it's not going to do the justice that plain text would do. And he started to, to say, well, I don't know. And I said, here's another example. Scale that on mobile. When you go from a desktop presentation where it looks great, scale that down to a mobile phone, to a smartphone in a portrait presentation. How easy is that going to be able to read? And the answer was, it's not. You're not going to be able to read that type of presentation. So it was going to be both a usability issue as well as an SEO issue with the search engine. So avoid that at all costs. And if you have to fight clients on it because there's some reason that they want it, you can use that example. It's both SEO and it's as well usability on smartphones. Duplicate listings in local search directories. So this happens a lot. For example, I'm going to come back to the lawyers and the doctors. If you have a medical office that has, say, 10 doctors in it, or you have a law office that has 20 lawyers, the search engines, particularly Google, can automatically start setting up these profiles for these individuals. They can do so, the directory sites that are industry specific can do it too. They buy a list somewhere, they throw all those in, and they may or may not have relevant and accurate information. The directories, the industry specific ones, a lot of times they see it the wrong information. It's an old address, it's an old phone number, it's a convoluted a group of data that's been purchased that isn't anywhere close to being right. Make sure that those are resolved and fixed. If you have 3 records with the same directory and they've got 3 different addresses, take the time to narrow those down to the right one and get rid of the wrong ones. You can do the same thing in Google and Google My Business and the local directories for Google, because there's actually an option that you can come and say, this location's been closed. Here's where it should be located. Facebook, if you have multiple pages, Facebook has an option now to merge pages. Again, take the time to fix those so that you have one relevant listing. Inconsistencies is the next one. I kind of just talked about that with the directories. Incorrect categories used in local directories such as Google My Business. And guess who had this for their listing at one time? That would be us with Web Savvy. I noticed that we were not showing up in Google Maps, and I wanted to know why. And when I went to go look at the profile, I realized it was a category that I had set up years and years ago when I first set up the listing. And there was a lot more relevant categories available now, so I could pick one that was more relevant. So if you do have really old listings, kudos for you for being at the forefront of that and for setting those up. But I'd suggest that you take the time to go back and check those listings to make sure that the categories are current and relevant, and go and take the time. Sometimes you can pick more than one, sometimes you can only pick one, but verify those, because they, for at least Google's perspective, they really do impact where you're going to show up. The last one is unverified listings in local directories. If you've not taken the time to set any of these up, you probably have listings set up for you. They're unverified, which means your competitor could come in and verify that if they wanted to and start editing the information. I would hope it doesn't happen very often, but it could. So make sure that you go through and claim those. I'm sure there's more that I didn't think of, but hopefully you guys have questions in the chat and then we can discuss them. Okay, that concludes the information I wanted to go through today. Just to recap, local SEO, very similar to national SEO. The nuances that you need to be made aware of is that NAP, right? The address, the phone number. Make sure that those are accurate. Make sure that they're available on your website. Focus on the directory listings for local listings as well as industry-specific ones. Make sure those are correct and they have your most important keywords within the descriptions and they're referenced on your website. And then if you have a website with multiple locations, take the time to set up individual pages for each location and have as much unique information on that page as possible, so that the search engines can digest that information and relate it to the local search results. Okay, that concludes what I wanted to go through. I have time now, as I promised, we have time for Q&A, so hit us up in the chat with whatever you'd like us to discuss and we can go through them.
And just a reminder that the chat, if you joined us late, is at iThemes.com/chat. It's exciting, a number of the questions that were popping in here, Rebecca. And one of them that kept popping up was, what do you do if you're trying to target a specific area, but you don't live there because you live in a very rural area, and you're literally 5 or 6 hours away, but you need that city? Like if you were literally in the western part of North Dakota and your business is reaching people in Fargo 6 hours away, what do you do about the NAP stuff?
You're going to have a hard time, right? I mean, it's just, there's no way of getting around it because that's not your geographical area. You can, what you can say is use that within your service area. So state that that is part of your service area and you represent those areas. You know, one thing that we've done with clients is a lawyer who was in one city but represented cases in 5 different counties. And this was a divorce attorney, and those counties make a difference because the different counties in Michigan really rule on divorce cases and child custody in different manners. So, and people were looking at what county, you know, it makes a difference, that the little county level. So we would state this location supports these counties, so that we could have those physical references on the website. However, when you go to the directories, you have to be very careful, because the last thing you want to do is try to manipulate, especially like your Google Plus profile or your Google My Business profile, and then be removed from it. So tread carefully. I would use service areas as a way to represent that. Before we go to the next question, is one thing I forgot to state in the presentation. I thought I had it in there, but I didn't see it. Was an old school approach to local SEO is to have, say, for example, Denver is your geographical focus area. You would put Denver within the H1 title on your page, within the URL of that page level, and within the description of the service, and in the contact, the text, and everything else. That's really old school. It's going to look spammy to the search engines. It's going to look spammy to people that read it. It's not going to flow right. So limit the need to do that. I don't do it anymore for local SEO. Do we mention the location in the text? If we can, absolutely. And like I said, you talk about your coverage area, but you don't need to have Denver 20 times in the page to be able to rank. What you need to do is have a holistic approach to local SEO to make sure that you rank.
And another, maybe to piggyback on the old school way of doing something, where do P.O. boxes fall into this? If somebody works out of their house, can we use the P.O. box that has a zip code as part of that NAP on the website?
So you can have a P.O. box. There's nothing bad with having a P.O. box. However, the search engines understand, particularly Google, that a P.O. box is a P.O. box. It's not a physical address, right? They're smart enough to know that. And they're smart enough to know where the P.O. boxes are located in your area. I mean, they have more data than, between Google and Facebook, they have more data than anybody. They know that, right? So don't rely on that, because I don't think it's going to be very successful. So can you use it? Yes. Is it going to be as good as having a physical office in that zip code or that city? No, not at all.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to stop by and say hi to everybody, and also to Rebecca. Can you guys hear me?
We can. Hey, Corey Miller.
Hey. Well, I wanted to say thank you to Rebecca. She's been doing these SEO webinars for, 6 months now or longer for us. Actually, it goes back to December when you did SEO week. But I wanted to make a mention real quick. I was supposed to be in the intros and I got held up on something, but Rebecca does all of these SEO courses or the webinars that she's been doing for us as a free service to our community. But I wanted to mention, I think Benjamin probably did in the intro, but on the right sidebar of the chat at iThemeschat.com, you'll see a coupon to her course for our community. That course is fantastic, and it's everything you need to know about a primer for SEO. And Rebecca, the question I wanted to ask you, while Benjamin's got a couple in the queue, is what's next for you? What are you doing next as far as courses and training and all that kind of stuff?
I am releasing, or I'm working on some industry-specific courses, so that if you are a lawyer or a doctor or an insurance agent or accountant, I can kind of jump start your SEO for you and have some of your homework done. So that's something that's in the queue, and I would like to also have this winter an on-site boot camp so that people could actually physically come on-site, and we do intensive 2-day workshops, full-day workshops, where we do your homework in person with you, and we work on it as a group and get your SEO on track. So those are the two things that I've got coming.
Okay, so you guys just heard about an in-person thing that Rebecca's going to do at some point before the end of the year, and that's exciting, because if you just sat through the webinar like I did and listened, you're like, oh man, I need the slides, because there is so much information here. I need to go back and make sure I hit all of these things. So put that on get that in your mind, the back of your mind, that in-person workshops coming from Rebecca pretty soon, and we'll be sure to promote that to our community, as she's been such a good friend for our audience and helping people out. But I want to also say, every time she does one of these, and any of our friends do, I always ask people to make sure and tweet, put it on Facebook, that you so much enjoyed the webinar with Rebecca today. Again, she's doing these as a service to our community, as a friend of ours, and so we want to be sure and say thank you to her, because this is so valuable information. It'd be hard. Rebecca is a highly paid, highly in-demand expert, taking her time to do this, and so I hope you'll tweet her, put it on Facebook, And then also check out our course and be sure to go there and check it out to take your SEO skills to the next level. And keep encouraging her to do these. I keep pushing her, hey, when are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And she's like, there's only so many hours in a day, Corey. But anyway, we so much appreciate Rebecca and everything she's done for our community.
One thing to just say real quick before we go to the next question is I am happy to continue to do these. And if you all have particular topics that you'd like us to cover in upcoming months, hit me up with them either on Twitter or send them over to the iThemes team, and we'll make sure that we put those into the calendar, because I think we have 1 or 2 more of these scheduled for the next 2 months, and then I haven't planned it out yet. So tell me what your ideas are, what you're struggling with, and we'll make sure that we have content that can answer those questions for you and provide some education.
Yeah, I just put the link to go sign up for that. Be sure and do that. What really matters with technical SEO is next in August. And the one I'm really, really excited about in September is e-commerce SEO. So ping her on Twitter and send emails to us if you'd like. Put it in the chat, topics you'd like to hear about. But she's game for all doing that. And be sure to go to DIYSEOcourses.com and sign up for either the course or the email address to see what she's doing next. Okay, Benjamin, I'll let you take it from here.
So I kept thinking that if Rebecca's going to do this in-person thing for SEO, is that truly local SEO together?
It's sure funny. We're going to pick a metropolitan area so it's easier for people to get in and out, but I don't anticipate it to be just local people in that area. Because it's actually the way that I looked at it is I was looking at WordPress users and the meetups and the numbers of WordPress users at those meetups in different cities across the U.S. that had major airports that could be easy for people to get in and out of, and that's what I was using as the basis and not my physical location. So we'll be on the road for that to make sure that we can make it available to as most people as possible.
Yeah, we were talking about Chicago, Dallas. Dallas is easy because we could get there really easy, but Chicago's a big hub, and I know people are putting in the chat where they'd like that to be, so be sure and do that too. And okay, Benjamin, I've hijacked your Q&A.
That's right. So now we're all going to talk about Rebecca on tour. She's got a tour bus. She'll be...
yep, we're going to be her roadies.
So a great question that popped out of one of your early slides when you were talking about kind of dialect variants. Someone asked the question, is it a good idea to build independent pages for those variants, because those are very specific search terms, and maybe this has to do with local SEO, and maybe it's more of just about this is a way to have multiple targets?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on the website and what you offer, right? So my example that I gave you with cornhole and bago, in that situation, if you were selling products for both cornhole or if you were selling those type of products, you could position them on 2 different pages or 2 different products, because there are criteria for cornhole, because there's actually like a cornhole association, and then there's like official bago rules. So you could actually have 2 different products or 2 different pages, and you could talk about the differences and what those, what you offer, how it's different, right? And what specific, you have unique content. I have had cases, and this works at both the local and the national level, where clients have wanted to have 2 different pages with the exact same information, say attorney versus lawyer. Exact same information, they want to target both phrases on 2 different pages. That is not going to work. So, because it's not unique. The bago cornhole could potentially be unique because you've got regulation differences that you could target. But the lawyer attorney, it's not. You can try to blend both in to a given, to an individual page, but have a primary that's the most used for your geographical reference. Use that as the primary, and if you get the second one, it's gravy.
Oops, lost my page, which has all the questions here. Somebody asked the question, maybe this is more of a generic one. Can you optimize the page for both local and national SEO, or should you have like a targeted local landing page and a targeted national or a global page?
You can absolutely target both on the same page, and our website will show up So, for example, we will show up for our SEO page, we'll show up at a national level. I think we're usually at the bottom of page 1 or at the top of page 2, because honestly, that's not something that I push with services a ton, because we do a lot more design. But we show up at both. So we show up, at the national level, and then if you're local and you're searching, we're going to show up a lot higher because I'm close to, say, Michigan. Someone in Michigan. Same thing for website design. We show up at the national level. On the phrases that I target with that page, we are at the very top of page 1 nationally, and then we also rank locally in the maps, and then for local searches for certain phrases too. So, and it's all with the same page. It's just on how you do that page, how you craft that. Our website is not going to rank, for example, locally as well as it should, because I don't have a phone number on there. And the reason I don't have a phone number on there is because we sell internationally and we sell the stock themes, and the phones would ring off the hook with questions, and we don't have the manpower to handle that. So, that goes against me. And if you're looking at my website and you're listening to this presentation, you're thinking that I'm, just crazy because I'm telling you this, but then I don't do that practice myself. There's a business decision on why we don't do that. I wish I could have our local phone number there, and have that available, as well as the address and everything else, but because of the type of business that we are, we really can't. However, we still we still show up for a lot of local services because of the external references we have, for the firm. And the Google Maps profiles and things like that. So absolutely, yes, it is possible. Don't create individual pages for both.
And there are a number of questions that some people have clients that are franchisees, or they have businesses that have different local franchises. And you briefly touched on this. Maybe you can refresh or re-talk about, should each office have its own page? How should we go about allowing each franchise to be able to target its region?
That's a great question. And we've worked with a lot of franchises across the US. So you're going to go one of two routes, and it's going to depend on the size of your franchises. You'll either have individual websites for each local franchise, or you're going to have a page on a larger website for each local area. And it really is going to depend on the nature of the offering, the products, the services you provide, the budgets that you have for your individual franchise locations. But you do want to absolutely have individual references at the minimum, a URL level for those, so that the search engines can understand and digest that and apply that to local search. Because they're not going to return a national website for something specific to Dallas dog cleaning. They're not going to do it. But they will do it if you have a page for that Dallas office that provides dog cleaning services.
Yeah, that's helpful. And maybe that also leads into a question somebody else had. And this is coming from the opposite perspective, the person doing the searching. If they are logged into Google with their account and they search for dog walkers, is Google going to automatically take into account their location and return possibly local results?
Oh gosh, if you're signed into Google and you're looking for stuff, you have a host of combinations that are going to come back. So it's hard to answer that with a definite response, because personalized search and that signed in account stores all your history. So Google knows, where you've been, what you visited, and that type of thing, and that's all going to get taken into account into your search results that are presented back. So if you really want, and it's a good point to make, if you're doing your own research for yourself or that of your client, always make sure that you are in a clean browser. You are not logged into Google or any other type of activity. I always have Firefox that doesn't keep browsing history, and I've never logged in anything on Firefox, so that I can use that for clean searches, so I can really see, what is getting presented in search results, either for me or my clients, or even for what I'm looking for myself, because I don't want what I searched for already or what I visited to skew those results.
Well, this has been great. We have time for one more question, and the question actually is a combination of a number of questions people have asked. How do you best handle the physical address versus mailing address so that the physical address is clear to Google, even though you may have two addresses or a P.O. box or your home address or something like this?
So if you're a business and you've got a physical and a mailing address, which happens a lot for receivables and things like that, put them both on your contact page. They don't need two individual pages because that's not going to service the user. Definitely say that here's the physical or corporate location, and then here's the mailing address for communication, receivables, that kind of thing. Show them both, and I'm quite sure the search engines are smart enough to understand that. In addition to the fact that those external references that you have on profiles should really be using your physical address. And you want that to be the case. So this is a good question. So if you have that P.O. box for inquiries and things like that, and then a physical company address or corporate address for the office location, use the office location on your external profiles so that the search engines can understand the true location, because otherwise they're going to start to get confused.
Well, this has been great, and I hope everyone who's been on this call have been able to take away those nuggets of truth, and that you, if as Rebecca said, you just take away that nap is one of the most important things you can do. And so let me leave it, Rebecca, if you have a final word of encouragement for people tackling local SEO.
Jump in, because it's so much easier than you think if you've never worked on it. And if you're a small business owner and you really start to pay attention to what you're doing and focus on it, you'll be surprised at how much headway that you can make in search and driving traffic to your site.
Well, again, thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, everybody who attended this. If you want to watch the replay, you can always follow along our blog at ithemes.com/blog. You'll be able to see that replay there. And again, tune in next month for the next in this series of free SEO classes brought to you by iThemes and Rebecca Gill. And then definitely tweet out if you took away that nugget of truth, or you were inspired to chase after some local SEO optimization. And then also don't forget about the additional SEO course that you can learn about at ithemes.com/chat in that sidebar with the coupon. Thanks again, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of a Wednesday.